Part 8. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 71. Jesse Dabin was angered by Nan Yan's wanton and arrogant words. He no longer had the cigar in his mouth, his face was livid, and he glared at Nan Yan. On the other side, the Chinese people in the casino cheered and were very relieved. Regardless of whether the little girl can defeat him, she alone suppressed Jesse Dabin's arrogance and allowed him to defeat him. This is a very good performance. Little sister, come on. Girl, you are awesome. Come on, make him mad. Little sister, don't be afraid of him, teach him a lesson. A group of people stood behind Nan Yan to cheer her up. Even the casino owner stood upstairs, looking down at the current situation downstairs. Shen Junqing pulled up a chair and leaned on it casually, crossing her long slender legs. Her peach blossom eyes were full of smiles, and she put her hand on Nan Yan's shoulder. Sister, even though play, if you lose, it's your third brother's fault. Nan Yan raised her eyebrows and said, Third brother, come here and I will help you read the cards. All right. Jesse Dabin could understand Chinese. Hearing those words, he was almost so angry that he vomited blood. The expression on his face was not as calm as before, and he stared at Nan Yan gloomily. If sight could kill, Nan Yan would have been beaten by him long ago. Hashtag. This time she came out and gained a lot. She got 180 million. One step closer to her laboratory. Back in the car, Shen Junqing was rarely serious and said, Yan Yan, that Jesse Dabin looked at you wrong when he left. He might be evil. It's not safe for you to live alone. He paused and discussed, Third brother's house is very big and has many rooms. How about you go to my place to stay for a few days first? No, I'm going home. If you are worried that it is not suitable for the two of us to live together, I can live in another place. There are more people there and the security system is better than the community where you live. Nan Yan raised his head and said calmly, he came to trouble me, just in time to try my newly prepared poison. Save me and find someone to test the poison. The corners of her lips were raised, and her beautiful and excessive eyebrows were dyed with a lazy smile. It's rare for someone to come to the door by themselves. Third brother, please don't make trouble for me. Shen Junqing. What kind of sister did he recognize? Why is it that the more contact he has with her, the less he can see through her? Thinking of how she had pinned Tassin's car to the foot of the cliff without hesitation, and with such fierce force, he no longer knew whether to worry about Nan Yan being in danger or to rejoice that Jesse Dabin was seeking death. Since you don't want to go, you must remember to call me if anything happens, okay? Nan Yan, I want you to come together to see the effects of the medicine. Shen Junqing. Hashtag. Returning to Jingtai Garden Community, Nan Yan remembered that he had taken the initiative to go upstairs to sit, and asked tentatively, Third brother, do you want to go up and have a cup of tea? Shen Junqing's lips curved, with a seductive smile on her face, since Sister Yan Yan kindly invites you, third brother, please go up and have a glass of water. I originally thought that although we are brothers and sisters, we should avoid suspicion even if we are alone and alone. Nan Yan. If she had known earlier, she shouldn't have asked. But after asking, she couldn't take it back, so she could only lead Shen Junqing back to her residence in frustration. The elevator door opened. Before getting off the elevator, Nan Yan had already seen the tall figure standing at the door of her home. Then, she closed the elevator door that she had just opened. Then he turned to Shen Junqing and said, Third brother, it may not be convenient for you to go to my house today. How about you go back first? Shen Junqing, don't think he didn't see it. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 72. Shen Junqing looked at Nan Yan with a smile, trying to tease her. Sister, are you afraid of him? Shen Junqing thought that with his understanding of Nan Yan, she would definitely refute. As a result, Nan Yan said leisurely, "You can think so." Shen Junqing patted Nan Yan's shoulder with a look of disappointment. "Sister, nowadays, it's not popular for women to be afraid of men. It's all men who are trained by women. You should take the attitude you used to abuse others and abuse him well." Nan Yan sighed and asked helplessly, "Third brother, look at him like that, do I dare to abuse him?" Shen Junqing, Qin Lu's face flashed through his mind, and he couldn't say the words he wanted to give Nan Yan. This is true, no one dares, and no one is willing to abuse. "So, third brother, you go back first." Nan Yan thought for a while. "When I have time, I will treat you to a meal." "Okay." Hashtag. Take the elevator to the first floor, send Shen Junqing away. Nan Yan took the elevator alone and pressed the button for the 18th floor. The elevator door opened again. Nan Yan came out calmly and walked towards her house. Qin Lu leaned against the white wall leisurely, holding a lit cigarette between his fingertips. The smoke curled up, making his face look a little illusory and blurred, and the shadowy figure made him more breathtakingly beautiful. Nan Yan's heartbeat slowed down by half a beat. To be honest, Qin De Lao's appearance and figure seemed to be in her aesthetic point, sniping her little heart crazily. So attractive. She had too high standards. In her previous life, she was busy and had seen so many men, but none of them could make her heart move. As for Qin Lu, although she didn't want to admit it, his figure was deeply imprinted in her memory at first sight. It is estimated that she will never forget him in this life. Brother Nan Yan stopped 2 steps away from him, and looked at him with her beautiful peach blossom eyes. "Why are you here?" It was almost 10 o'clock in the evening, and it was hard for her not to think about it when he came to see her on purpose. Qin Lu put out the cigarette on his fingertips and said lightly, "I have an appointment with a partner nearby, and I will come to see you after the meeting. As for whether there is such a partner, he has the final say." "Oh." Nan Yan suddenly felt that she was a little self-indulgent, and the light in her eyes faded a little. After opening the door, she had recovered her mood and said obediently, "Brother, come in." Qin Lu walked past her. The person passed, but the smell lingered in her nose. The smell of cigarettes lingered on him, blending with his own cold fragrance. The smell obtained by chemical reaction was very good. There was a feeling of addiction. Breathing slowly, let the smell stay a little longer. After closing the door and putting everything on the cabinet at the entrance, she went to the kitchen first, brewed a pot of tea and brought it over. A very beautiful crystal teapot and matching crystal teacup. The flower tea and fruit tea in it brewed a light rose red. "Brother, do you want to drink this tea? If not, I'll change you a cup of plain water. She only has this kind of tea. It tastes sour and sweet, and she likes this taste." "This is good, no need to change." Qin Lu picked up a cup directly. "It smells good." Nan Yan also picked up a cup and said casually, "Well, when I went to buy tea, the clerk recommended it, saying that girls drinking this kind of flower and fruit tea is good for the body." After she finished speaking, she felt that this sentence seemed to be inappropriate. She glanced at Qin Lu quietly, and seeing that he didn't react, she lowered her eyes and drank from the teacup in small sips. Qin Lu finished a cup of tea, gently placed it on the coffee table, and asked casually, "Little friend, what did Shen Junqing take you to play?" Nan Yan paused slightly, put down the teacup with both hands, and struggled in her heart whether to tell the truth. Last time in the casino, his reaction was that he didn't like gambling. After hesitating for a moment, Nan Yan said, "I went to see the world and watched a very exciting match." Qin Lu. What a little liar who doesn't tell the truth. If he didn't know that she went to the casino, he probably wouldn't have guessed what she meant by match. And beat the gambling king from Thailand. How could she be so capable? Qin Lu looked straight at her. She looked at him without any guilt. Finally, He helplessly reached out and rubbed her head, and said in a low voice, "Go out less with him in the future. The places he goes to are not suitable for you to go. Don't let him lead you astray." Oh. Nan Yan suppressed the urge to pull his hand off and nodded obediently. She shouldn't have taken off her hat when she entered the door. 18-year-old children are in the rebellious period, and Qin Lu didn't want to say too much, fearing that Nan Yan would resist and think he was too strict. He casually found some very common topics to chat with her for a few sentences. Seeing that it was almost time, she should rest, so she stood up. "Rest early, brother will go back first." Nan Yan suddenly said, "Brother, I have a midterm exam next week." Qin Lu was stunned, then asked, "Do you want to find someone to help you with tutoring?" "No," Nan Yan blinked and curled the corners of her lips, "brother can look forward to how much I can score." "Okay." Qin Lu looked at her cute smiling face, and his eyes softened a little. "If you do well in the exam, brother will reward you." Hashtag. In the middle of the night, Nan Yan was sleeping lightly, and the bedroom door was not closed. The noise from the living room came directly over. Someone came in. Nan Yan's lips curled up with a cold arc. It came quite quickly. She sat up slowly, put on her shoes, and waited for the people outside to be hit. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, there was a suppressed scream of pain. Soon, more people screamed. From not wanting to make a sound at first to being unable to control the loud screams later, it only took more than a minute. Nan Yan calculated that the time was almost up, walked out of the bedroom, and turned on the lights in the living room. Jesse Banda and the two men he brought were rolling on the ground without any image, with painful expressions on their faces. The lights suddenly turned on, but they couldn't react at all. Nan Yan went to the water dispenser to pour a glass of water, then sat on the sofa, propped up her head with interest, and watched their reactions after taking the Chinese medicine. Jesse Banda almost scratched his face, blood mixed with tears, and his facial features were ferocious, and he screamed, "You, what did you do? How can a girl live alone without any defense?" Nan Yan curled her lips and chuckled coolly, "This gift, Mr. Gambler, do you like it? Let me go." Jesse Banda finally realized that he had offended someone he shouldn't have offended, and knelt on the ground with difficulty. "I was wrong, I won't dare to do it again, spare my life." Nan Yan stretched out a slender finger and shook it gently. "No, if you make a mistake, you must be punished." Qin Lu pushed open the door that had been opened and ran into her room. Seeing the scene in front of him, the expression on his face was a little broken. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 73. Brother. Nan Yan was also a little upset when she saw Qin Lu suddenly rushing in. Why did he appear here? If he saw her like this, wouldn't her personality be completely broken? Qin Lu had a strong heart, and the shock brought by the scene in front of him was quickly resolved. He walked a few steps to Nan Yan. "Little friend, are you okay?" Jesse Banda and his two followers, "Who is in trouble?" "You can tell at a glance." "It's okay." Nan Yan silently put down her supporting arm and sat down obediently. "Brother, why are you here suddenly?" "I got the news that someone wants to harm you," Qin Lu said calmly. "I'm afraid you will be in danger, so I came to see you. But now it seems that my worry is unnecessary." Nan Yan's heart was rippled. The Landis Hotel where Qin Lu lived was more than an hour away from here, and it would take about half an hour if he drove too fast. But he came here in the middle of the night because of her. She opened her mouth, and for a moment, she didn't know what to say. Looking at his somewhat cold and hard features, she lowered her head as if she had made a mistake, then grabbed his sleeve with her little hand and shook it gently. "Brother, I have the ability to defend myself. I also know that they will come tonight. As Nan Yan said, she carefully looked at Qin Lu's expression. Seeing that he was still frowning, she apologized with some regret. Brother, I'm sorry. Qin Lu looked at her with a dull look in his eyes. What are you apologizing for? What did you do wrong? The little girl really gave him one surprise after another. I guess she was blaming him for meddling in her business again. Jesse Banda and his two followers continued to want to hurt themselves in pain, screaming. But the two of them were not affected at all. One lowered his little head, and the other was cold and cruel. Nan Yan's desire to survive came online, looking at him pitifully, and said weakly, "It's my fault that I made my brother worry." Qin Lu was almost laughed at by her expression. Is he that scary? He didn't say anything, but he scared her like this? Pinching his eyebrows, he put his big hand on the girl's head. How are you going to deal with these people? Nan Yan said to the three people who were tortured and couldn't even scream, with a pure and innocent face, burning and robbing, will they be put in jail? They have exposed their demonic attributes, and they are playing the role of a little white rabbit again. She didn't feel any pressure at all. Qin Lu pulled her cheek. Okay, then call the police. Hashtag. Before the police came, Nan Yan kindly detoxified the three of them. At this time, there was no good place on the faces, necks, and chests of Jesse Banda and the other two. They were bloody and unrecognizable. Seeing the police uncle, Jesse Banda, and the others were like seeing their relatives. They didn't need the police uncle to catch them at all, they reached out their hands. Take us away quickly, demon, she is a demon. I want to leave here, take me away. Save us, don't leave us here. Police uncle. What kind of routine is this? Why did they react like this? Their faces. This is too miserable. Nan Yan said very obediently, maybe he is allergic to the anti-wolf spray I sprayed, and he scratched it himself. Jesse Banda and the other two, young and unethical. Is that anti-wolf spray? They only remember that when they entered the door, they seemed to have broken something like a plastic bag, and there was liquid in it splashing on their faces. At first they just thought it was water. In a few minutes, they were worse than dead. Oh, so that's the case, the effect is not bad, the police uncle exclaimed, then we will take the person away. Okay, Nan Yan curled the corners of her lips and waved, goodbye, police uncle. After the police uncle took the three away, there were only two of them left in the room. Nan Yan's mood was inexplicably tense. There were no outsiders, should Qin Lao deal with her? Just thinking about it, she saw Qin Lu enter the bathroom. Not long after, he came out with a mop to wipe the blood and spilled liquid on the ground. Nan Yan's temples jumped, and she quickly went over to grab the mop in his hand. Brother, let me do this. Qin Lu pushed her away, the floor is dirty, go wait. Nan Yan. She felt a little guilty for letting the godlike Qin do this. But since he insisted on doing it, she didn't care. Qin Lu wiped the floor 3 times, and only put the mop back into the bathroom after it was completely clean without a trace. Washing his hands, he waited for him to come out and saw the girl yawning on the sofa. He walked over and patted her head lightly, his voice was low and magnetic, Yan Yan, get up, go to bed. Nan Yan rubbed her eyes and asked a little dazedly, what about you, brother? I'm going back to the hotel. Qin Lu pinched her little face, it's not appropriate to stay here. Oh. Nan Yan looked at the time and said obediently, brother, go slowly on the road. Yeah. Hashtag. Time flies, and it's Friday. There will be 2 consecutive exams next Wednesday and Thursday, and the results will probably be known on Monday of next week. The students in Class 4 of Grade 2 have already started to get excited, waiting for the results to come out and drive her out of their class. But compared to their excitement, Nan Yan's calmness made them wonder whether she was really confident or just going for broke. Anyway, it would only take another week. These days, they were very quiet and didn't dare to provoke her. On Saturday, Nan Yan went to the first hospital to see 2 hospitalized patients. His whose health was fine and he could be discharged at any time. Originally, his who was anxious to return to the capital, but now that he knew Nan Yan was here, he was not anxious anymore. He calmly recuperated in the hospital and even wanted to stay a few more days. After taking his whose pulse, Nan Yan said in a gentle voice, "Mr. He, remember to take the medicine I prescribed for you on time. In the future, if you are more stable and avoid arrogance and impatience, the number of attacks will be reduced. Yan Yan, why don't you come back to the imperial capital with me? Although Jinqing is not bad, it is not as developed as the imperial capital. If you are in the imperial capital, I can take care of you more conveniently." "I do plan to go to the imperial capital, but not now," Nan Yan said indifferently. "After the college entrance examination, I will enter the imperial capital university." The An family owed the original owner, and it must be resolved before she went to the imperial capital. After clearing the name of the original owner and saying that she was no worse than anyone else, she should do her own thing. She wanted to visit the imperial capital university in China in her previous life, but unfortunately she never had the chance. Now that she has this opportunity, she naturally cannot miss it. The laboratory of the Imperial University is ranked among the top 10 in the world, and academician Zhong Jingkai, whom she admires very much, is the dean of the Department of Biochemistry of the Imperial Capital University. She wants to become his disciple and improve her abilities. Okay. Hashtag. Dean Tao waited for Nan Yan to come out of his whose ward before saying to her, "Friend Nan, there's news from the capital. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss." Author, Junanan. Chapter 74. Nan Yan nodded. "What did they say?" Tao Qingming asked, "The Cheng family, I want you Nan Xiao to come next Saturday, is that okay?" "Well, I'm just taking a rest, that's okay." Tao Qingming smiled and said, "Then I will reply to the Cheng family and tell them that you are free that day." Good. Hashtag. After a week of hospitalization, Lin Xian's condition has stabilized. His face was much rosier than before, and his eyes no longer had the gray haze, but were a little clearer and firmer. When Nan Yan came in, she was joking with Mrs. Lin. Judging from her tone, she felt much better. "Yan Yan, you're here." When Lin Xian saw Nan Yan, her eyes suddenly lit up. She stood up and ran towards her. I wanted to hug her, but I didn't dare, so I had to stand there and look at her excitedly. "Yan Yan, I feel more relaxed than ever before, as if the disease that has always been with me is far away from me." "She looks good." Nan Yan curled her lips, opened her arms, hugged her lightly, and encouraged, "Keep on treating, and she will get better and better in the future." "Yeah." Lin Xian was extremely happy to receive Nan Yan's hug as she wished. "Yan Yan, I believe you." When Mrs. Lin saw Lin Xian running away, she stood up nervously. He was relieved to see that she was okay. She quickly walked over and said gratefully to the girl in front of her, "Miss Nan, Yan Yan's condition has really improved a lot. This is the first time I have seen such a smile on her face in so many years. Thank you so much." "Is you?" Nan Yan smiled lightly. "Mrs. Lin is too polite. It's me who is destined to be with her." Mrs. Lin nodded repeatedly. It is Yan Yan's luck to have a predestined relationship with Miss Nan. Although Nan Yan did not ask for any compensation, Mrs. Lin and Mr. Lin had already discussed that as long as she could make their daughter better, they were willing to transfer 10% of Lin's shares to her. In their eyes, their daughter's health is much more important than these shares. Moreover, instead of taking advantage of their indifferent and ruthless relatives, they would rather give Nanyan the business they worked so hard to create. Perhaps, this is an opportunity for their daughter to keep the company. but we will talk about this later. The most important thing now is to keep my daughter healthy. Hashtag. After Lin Ziyan was discharged from the hospital, Mrs. Lin strongly invited Nan Yan to Lin's house and asked her to have a meal at home. Lin Ziyan also held her hand affectionately, coquettishly asking her to go back together. Nan Yan couldn't refuse the hospitality, so she had no choice but to agree. Sitting in the Lin family's car, Lin Ziyan looked at her, feeling a little depressed. Yan Yan, you know, I have been alone since I was a child. No one would play with me because my body couldn't run, jump, or even get too excited. In a month, I have to rest in bed for 20 days. Those parents would even tell their children not to play with me, for fear that I would die while playing with their children and their children would be harmed. I yearn for the outside world, and I also hope to have a good friend who can share joy and sorrow. But because of my health, I can only treat friends as a luxury. Yan Yan, are you willing to be my first friend? Lin Ziyan asked cautiously, with expectation hidden in her flashing eyes. I'm very picky about making friends, Nan Yan said in a calm tone. There must be at least one advantage that I can appreciate. You don't have this ability to attract me right now. Nan Yan's words gradually dimmed the light in Lin Ziyan's eyes. She opened her mouth and said in a weak voice, in comparison, I was the one who was abrupt. However, just because you don't have it now doesn't mean you won't have it in the future. Since we two are so destined and our names are both Yan, I will give you an observation period. If you can impress me during my observation period, I will be your friend. Nan Yan really doesn't have many friends. The number of people who can truly be recognized by her can be counted on one hand. She would save Lin Ziyan, firstly because of her master's teachings when she was apprenticed to the doctor. When studying medicine, one should help the world and save lives and heal the wounded. Secondly, she didn't want a young life to wither away like this. Perhaps because she herself died once, after rebirth, she respected life even more. Lin Ziyan, who was originally shocked, suddenly had light in her eyes again, and she said firmly, I will work hard. Nan Yan remembered how Qin Lu and Shen Junqing kept touching her head, and subconsciously imitated it. He put his hand on her head and rubbed it gently. Okay. The plush feeling in the palm of your hand seems to be nothing special, right? Nan Yan retracted her hand thoughtfully, feeling a little more confused. Lin Ziyan felt inexplicably happy because of her move. So, she has a sharp mouth but a tofu heart? When Mrs. Lin heard this, she took a long breath of relief. At the same time, the evaluation of Nan Yan in my heart was also higher. In this way, she encourages Yan Yan to become better and better. Mrs. Lin was so moved that she lowered her head and quietly wiped away the tears from her eyes. She secretly decided that her daughter must have a good relationship with Nan Yan. This is an opportunity. Hashtag. The atmosphere of the Lin family is very good, the small villa is very warmly decorated. Although Lin's father is a successful businessman, he is not extravagant and wasteful. There are no exaggerated decorations. Instead, each piece is just right. It is enough to see that the host family attaches great importance to the family. After entering the door, Mrs. Lin took off her coat and said with a smile, Miss Nan, you can be casual, don't be restrained. I will go to the kitchen to cook some home-cooked dishes, and we will have dinner in a while. Okay, Nan Yan smiled and nodded, and then was pulled to her room by Lin Ziyan. Lin Ziyan's room is very simple, and there is no gorgeous decoration, but it looks very warm. On the photo wall is a photo of the family of 3, and on the bedside table is a single photo of her, when she was 7 or 8 years old. There are also scattered photos of them in other places. Nan Yan looked at it calmly, knowing in her heart that this is a record. Lin Ziyan's parents have been seeking medical treatment for many years and were told that she would not live beyond the age of 18. So, they would leave so many photos, leaving traces of their daughter's visit. Lin Ziyan smiled and said, Yan Yan, you are the first person to enter my room besides my parents. Really, Nanyang curved her lips, it's my honor. Yanyan, let me show you my collection of many years. Linzian was mysterious and brought a big picture album over. Nanyang thought that there were also photos of their family. After opening it, she found that there were paintings of various people, landscapes and buildings. Sketches, watercolors, oil paintings, all involved. Did you draw it? Yes, Linzian nodded, my body can only allow me to have this quiet hobby. I spend most of my time drawing. Nanyang looked through it carefully and listened to Linzian's thoughts and feelings when she drew each painting. Suddenly, an old and sharp voice came from downstairs. Where are the people? Where did they die? Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 75. Linzian's little face suddenly became panicked, and her eyes flashed with uneasiness and fear. Even unconsciously, he held Nanyan's hand tightly, his body trembling. Nanyan frowned slightly, what's wrong? She's here again. Linzian's face turned pale and her words were a little incoherent, I don't want to see her, let her go. Who? This person must have caused great harm to Linzian to leave her with such unforgettable fear. Just hearing the sound can make her so scared. My grandma is very bad, Linzian gritted her teeth, with resistance and fear in her eyes. Nanyan patted her on the back and said in a gentle voice, don't be afraid, I'll accompany you down. As long as I'm here, she won't let her bully you. Linzian shook her head and said seriously with a pale face, no, she knows how to scold people, and the scolding is very unpleasant. I don't want you to get scolded too. It doesn't matter. Nanyan helped her stand up and said slowly, if she dares to scold me, I can make her mute. Linzian was stunned for a moment, and there was a trace of hatred in his eyes, okay, let her become mute. Mrs. Lin was cooking in the kitchen and her voice could not be heard. It was the servant who ran over to notify her that her mother-in-law, Mrs. Lin, was here. Although she was bored, she couldn't ignore it, so she handed the dishes to the chef and asked him to prepare them. She wiped her hands, took off her apron, and hurried to the front room. I'm afraid that if I go slower, my daughter will be bullied by the old woman again. Hashtag. Nanyan and Linzian came down from upstairs. I saw a very sharp and rude old lady wearing very gorgeous clothes, a big gold necklace around her neck, and a big gold bracelet on her wrist, sitting on the sofa in the living room and bossing her around. While strongly instructing the servants to bring her tea and water, she cursed Mrs. Lin and Linzian with unpleasant words. Isn't he just a short-lived debt collector? He holds it like a treasure day after day. Sooner or later he will die, so why waste that money? I shouldn't have agreed to you bringing her back from the hospital in the first place. I should have just drowned her. Wen Chuhua, let me tell you, I will leave my words here today. I will not treat her again in the future. Don't waste my son's hard-earned money. Wen Chuhua is Mrs. Lin's name. Linzian gritted her teeth, her body trembling uncontrollably. Nanyan's face darkened after hearing those vicious words. No wonder Linzian is so afraid of her. This old lady must have said these words in front of Linzian many times before. For a patient with congenital heart disease, life is already very difficult. She has to constantly fight against the disease and struggle from death to death again and again. As a grandmother, her vicious words were simply heartbreaking to Linzian. It would make her hard-earned desire to survive collapse. It is definitely a miracle that Linzian can live to such an old age. It can be seen with the naked eye that Linzian, whose condition finally improved a bit, has declined sharply. Cold sweat broke out on her forehead, as if she couldn't stand still, her body was shaky and she might faint at any time. Nanyan put his hand on her shoulder and asked her to look up. Linzian, I now want you to control your inner demon and defeat it. This is the first test for you to become my friend. Think about your parents. They love you more than anything and try their best to keep you alive. These are the people who really care about you. Are you going to hurt someone who cares about you deeply for someone who hates you? You have to learn to ignore them. Don't pay attention to these bad words, they are like nothing. The quiet words that rang in her ears slowly soothed Lin Xian's heart, which was almost suffocating. Determination appeared in her eyes again. Yes. If she died, this old woman would not shed a single tear. The real pain is for her father and mother. Her parents didn't have a second child for her, and gave her all their love. She had to be strong, work hard to get better, and stay with them for the rest of her life. After thinking about it, the emotion that used to make me want to die immediately after hearing these words disappeared. Yan, I know what to do. Lin Xian gritted her teeth and walked towards Mrs. Lin. When Mrs. Lin saw Lin Xian, the disgust in her eyes was undisguised, and she said maliciously, "Debt collector, why didn't you die in the hospital? Why are you still alive? Haven't you burdened your father with enough? If it weren't for you, your father would have had a son long ago. It's all your fault. If you had died a long time ago, I would have had grandchildren." Lin Xian was no longer timid this time. She raised her chin and said loudly, "Why should I die? You are still alive and well in your 70s and 80s. I am so young and I will definitely live longer than you. You bastard, are you cursing me to die early? I'll beat you to death, you little bitch." Mrs. Lin was so angry at her words that she rushed towards her with a ferocious expression and bared her teeth. Lin Xian had already mustered up the courage to refute her. When she saw Mrs. Lin rushing toward her, she didn't know what to do. She stood there blankly and closed her eyes. Seeing that Mrs. Lin was about to rush forward, she stretched out her hand and pulled Lin Xian to her side. Old Mrs. Lin missed the opportunity and fell directly to the ground, screaming ouch, ouch. Yan. Mrs. Lin screamed and ran over in panic. Yan, did she hurt you? Mrs. Lin first looked at Lin Xian from top to bottom, then hugged her tightly. "Don't be afraid, Mom is here, don't be afraid." Lin Xian came to her senses and hugged Mrs. Lin. "Mom, I'm fine." Old Mrs. Lin retreated and sat on the ground, crying and screaming, "Damn it, you short-lived devil, you dare to hit your own grandmother, you will be struck by 5 thunderbolts from the sky." Mrs. Lin let go of Lin Xian. Even her good upbringing couldn't bear her cursing her daughter like this. She said sternly, "Mother-in-law, Yan is not a short-lived ghost. Okay, you two, mother and daughter, teamed up to bully me, an old woman. You are trying to bully me, an old woman." Lin Jinai saw the scene when he came back. His mother was messing around on the ground, and his wife, daughter, and a pretty and outrageous girl were standing not far away. The servants were so frightened that they hid and did not dare to come near. Mrs. Lin saw Lin Jinai coming back and said, "Jinai, you still know that when you come back, your mother and I were bullied by your evil daughter-in-law, and you still don't care?" Lin Jinai strode in, looked at Mrs. Lin and Lin Xian first, and asked with concern, "How are you doing?" "It's okay." Mrs. Lin shook her head bitterly, "Go and coax your mother away first. Miss Nan is here today and let her see the joke." "I won't leave. This is my son's home. Why should I leave?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 76. Old Mrs. Lin stood up in a hurry, her legs and feet were very agile, and said angrily, "Jinai, look at this good wife of yours, she actually wants to drive me away. I'm your mother. I'm my son's rightful father." Lin Jinai was also helpless towards his mother. Even though he knew that she treated his wife and children a lot, He couldn't do anything to her. Squeezing his brows, Lin Jinai said to Mrs. Lin in as calm a tone as possible, "Go back first. We have guests today. Don't make trouble. I'll see you when I'm free tomorrow." Old Mrs. Lin was furious. "Okay, now that your wings are hardened, you won't be able to support me anymore, right? I'm not alive anymore, and you all bully me. What's the point of my life, you unfilial sons, you unfilial sons? Even if I'm a ghost, I won't let you go." She howled, sat down on the ground again, and began to cry and curse. Lin Jinai's family of 3 had obviously seen her ability to act wildly before. Their faces were full of helplessness and bitterness, and there was nothing they could do to her. Old Mrs. Lin was crying. Nan Yan knelt down in front of her and handed over a fruit knife with her plain white hand. "Do you want to commit suicide? There is a knife here. Prick it into the heart and you will die in a few minutes." Mrs. Lin, who was crying happily, suddenly stopped, looked at the fruit knife that was handed to her, her body suddenly trembled, and she said loudly, "You are crazy, take it away quickly." Nan Yan put away the fruit knife slowly, dug into his pocket, and took out a small brown pill. "If you feel the pain of using the knife and can't do it yourself, my poison will cause your heart to fail if you take it. You can die in 10 minutes at most. Considering that you are Lin Xian's grandmother, how about I give you one as a friendly gift so that you can get what you want?" Old Mrs. Lin was stared at by Nan Yan's cold and overly cold eyes, and a chill ran down her spine, and a feeling of fear faintly emerged in her heart. The plain white hand was stretched out in front of her, with a brown pill lying in the palm, which was the poison that was going to kill her. She was emotionally broken, waving her hands randomly. "Go away. I don't want it, just go away. Jinai, drive her away, let her go quickly. That's not okay. I am a distinguished guest invited by Mr. Lin and Mrs. Lin. I won't leave until I have eaten." Nan Yan pinched the pills calmly and gently turned them in front of her. "You don't want to take it, do you want me to help you? No. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here." Nan Yan's indifferent expression suddenly turned cold. "I hate it when people scold me." She suddenly reached out, grabbed her chin, and then stuffed the pills in her hand into her mouth. With another gentle lift, Mrs. Lin swallowed the medicine directly. Old Mrs. Lin was so frightened that she lay on the ground and pressed her mouth hard, trying to spit out the pills. But no matter how hard she pressed, nothing came out. "I don't want to die, save me, please, save me." Mrs. Lin lay on the ground in a state of embarrassment, begging Nan Yan for mercy. "Yan Yan, come here," Nan Yan greeted leisurely. Lin Xian, who was watching the whole process, had her brain shut down. When she heard Nan Yan calling her, she subconsciously walked towards her. Nan Yan took out another pill and put it in Lin Xian's hand. "This is the antidote. If you want to save her, give it to her. If you don't want her to live, then throw away the antidote. Don't worry, after she dies, even an autopsy won't find any problems. She will be diagnosed as having heart failure and died normally." Old Mrs. Lin was almost scared to death. Looking at the antidote in Lin Xian's hand, she quickly shouted, "You little bitch, give me the antidote quickly." Lin Xian looked at the pills in her hand, then at Nan Yan, and finally at Mrs. Lin, pursed her lips, and took a step back. "I hate you. You always scold me, curse me, and tell me to die, but you don't allow my parents to save me. Now if you want to die, I won't save you." Mrs. Lin's face turned pale. She didn't know whether it was because of her heart or because the medicine was starting to take effect. Her consciousness began to feel a little dizzy, and her heart felt a little stuffy, as if she could hardly breathe. She grabbed the clothes on her chest in fear and screamed, "Lin Jinai! Ask your daughter to give me the antidote." Lin Jinai was silent for a moment and then said, "Mom, the antidote is in Yan Yan's hands. If I force her, if she destroys the antidote directly, you will be dead. If you still want to live, beg her bar." Mrs. Lin's eyes widened, as if she didn't expect Lin Jinai to ignore his life and death like this. She is his biological mother. How dare he do this to her? "Yan Yan, Grandma is wrong. Grandma will never scold you again. Can you give the antidote to Grandma? Grandma, please. Yan Yan, Grandma doesn't want to die yet. Please hurry up and give her the antidote. Grandma swears that she will treat you well in the future and be a good grandma. Please forgive her once and save her." Lin Ziyan said expressionlessly, "You know you want to live and don't want to die, but I don't want to die either. Since you are cruel enough to curse me, how about I curse you too and let you die?" "No. Grandma doesn't want to die, and she won't curse you to death in the future. Please save Grandma." Mrs. Lin felt that the feeling of suffocation was getting worse and worse. Opening her mouth to breathe did not seem to relieve the feeling of suffocation, as if she was having a heart attack, and her chest hurt more and more. "Help me, save me." She stretched out her hands and looked at Lin Ziyan pleadingly. It turns out that heart disease is so painful. She just thought that Lin Ziyan would die sooner or later, and it was a waste of their Lin family's money if she lived. The sooner she died, the sooner she would be free, and her son and his family could have another child sooner. If she gave birth to a grandson, her Lin family would have an heir. She favored sons over daughters, and didn't like Lin Ziyan, her granddaughter, at all. She would rather spoil her daughter's grandson. She also thought that if Lin Jinai and his wife didn't want to have another child, the Lin family's property would be inherited by their grandson in the future. She couldn't die. "Yan Yan, Grandma begs you, give Grandma the antidote quickly." Lin Ziyan bit her lip, "I can give you the antidote, but you have to swear that you will never come to our house to make trouble again. If you come again, I will let you go out and be hit by a car to death. If you dare to swear, I will give it to you. Grandma swears that if I come to make trouble again and curse you again, I will go out and be hit by a car to death. Grandma swears." Old people are generally superstitious. After swearing, they will be more cautious and restrained in the future. Lin Ziyan threw the antidote on the ground and turned to Mrs. Lin. Old Mrs. Lin found the antidote from the ground and quickly stuffed it into her mouth. She was so happy that she had survived a disaster. When she recovered, she said nothing and fled away from the Lin family. After she left, Lin Jinai asked Nan Yan carefully, "Miss Nan, is that pill really poison?" Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 77. It's not just Lin Jinai who is curious. Mrs. Lin and Lin Ziyan are also a little curious. Looking at the three pairs of curious eyes, Nan Yan smiled lightly. "In fact, it's not poison at all. It's the health medicine I made for Yan Yan to strengthen her body. She is too afraid of death and too nervous, so she has hysteria. She doesn't have the habit of carrying poison with her. And she has always believed in the teachings of her master that medical skills are used to save people, not to harm people. She will only use medical skills to teach real bad people a lesson. As for the vicious old lady like Mrs. Lin, even if she doesn't like it, she won't really do anything to her. At most, she will scare her." After listening to Nan Yan's explanation, Lin Jinai felt relieved and said apologetically, "I made Miss Nan laugh." Nothing. Nan Yan's expression was very casual, and then she gave the medicine that she planned to take out later directly to Lin Ziyan. "This is enough for half a month. I'll give you new ones after you finish eating." Lin Ziyan nodded quickly, "I will eat on time." "Okay." Lin Jinai and Mrs. Lin hurriedly thanked her again, thanking her for caring so much about Lin Ziyan's condition. Nan Yan said a few polite words and looked at Lin Ziyan. "Yan Yan, shall we go back to look at your album?" "Yeah." Lin Ziyan was very excited. Her mood was not affected by the old lady Lin before. On the contrary, she was excited because she let out a sigh of relief today and made the old lady Lin apologize to her. Nan Yan was right, she shouldn't be weak, and she shouldn't be afraid of her. It's enough for her to care about those who are really good to her, and she doesn't need to care about those who have bad intentions towards her. Yan Yan, thank you, Lin Ziyan thanked her very seriously. Nan Yan took the opportunity to rub her head lightly. You did a good job. When Nan Yan realized her actions, her expression froze. It must be just a matter of convenience. Hashtag. After finishing dinner at the Lin family, Lin Jinai wanted the driver to take Nan Yan back home. Nan Yan refused. After leaving the community, she hailed a taxi and planned to go to the Landis Hotel to accompany old lady Qin. Anyway, she had nothing to do. But before she arrived at the Landis Hotel, old lady Qin called. Yan Yan, why are you not at home? Old lady Qin looked at the locked door with a somewhat resentful tone. She had finally completed the assessment task of her eldest grandson and asked him to buy the room next to Nan Yan and move in today to give her a surprise. As a result, after ringing the doorbell again and knocking on the door, she came to a conclusion: Nan Yan was not at home. This really hurt the old lady's heart. In order to move in, she spent a lot of thought. Nan Yan said softly, I have something to do today, so I came out. Grandma, are you at my house? Yes, Grandma is waiting at your door. Old Madam Qin was very disappointed. Then Yan Yan, you go ahead and tell Grandma when you are not busy. It's okay now. I wanted to go to the hotel to find you. Nan Yan pinched her eyebrows. If she had known earlier, she would have called old Madam Qin in advance. Wait there for a while, I will go home right away. Oh, okay, old Madam Qin smiled instantly, but Yan Yan, don't worry, it doesn't matter if you go slowly, Grandma has a lot of time. She will live here in the future, but she has plenty of time to be with her. For the sake of her precious granddaughter-in-law, she even refused to invite her back to the capital. She must wait until the relationship between the two young lovers is stable before she can go back. Don't wait outside the door all the time, go to the service room on the first floor and wait for me. She was afraid that the old lady would stand too long and her body would not be able to hold on. Okay, Grandma is waiting for you. Old Madam Qin hung up the phone happily. It's still better to have a grandson's wife. He thinks of her in everything. Hashtag. Master, please change your destination. I want to go to Jingtai Garden Community. Nan Yan changed her destination. After waiting for half an hour, she arrived at the downstairs of the apartment building. After she handed the money to the driver, she walked quickly inside. There was no old lady in the service room on the first floor. Nan Yan frowned. Could it be that the old lady had been waiting upstairs? She entered the elevator and went all the way to the 16th floor. But there was no one outside the corridor. Nan Yan couldn't help but worry. She took out her mobile phone and called Ms. Qin. Yan Yan, are you back? Well, Grandma, where are you? Did you go back first? No, wait for Grandma. After saying that, Ms. Qin hung up the phone. Soon Nan Yan found that the door opposite her house was opened. The old lady walked out. Nan Yan was relieved when she saw her. Walking over, she asked with a smile, Grandma, do you know the owner of this house? No, old lady Qin said with a smile, Grandma bought this house and will live here in the future and be a neighbor to Yan Yan. Nan Yan. This old lady is really willful. But she has already bought it, what can she say? Besides, she has no right to say anything. Brother will come to live with you. That's not the case. Alu likes places like hotels. No matter where he goes on business trips, he will choose to stay in hotels. Old lady Qin said, every big city has a chain hotel under the Qin family, and every hotel has reserved a special room for him. She actually wanted Qin Lu to come live here too. After all, the closer the distance between two young people, the easier it is to attract and deepen their feelings. However, thinking of her grandson's living habits, she thought about it and still didn't ask him. Besides, she was not used to having him live with her. "Oh, where will you eat in the future?" "The hotel will deliver it," old lady Qin answered as a matter of course. "Yan Yan, how have you solved the problem of eating in the past few days?" Nan Yan paused for a moment and said, "Eat breakfast and lunch outside, and make dinner yourself. Then don't cook it yourself in the future. Grandma asked them to send one more portion and we will eat together." Looking at the old lady's eager invitation, the words that were about to be rejected were slowly pushed back. She curved her lips. "Thank you, Grandma. Why be so polite to Grandma?" "Okay." Nan Yan smiled, took out the key to open the door, and invited old lady Qin in. Hashtag. In the evening, Nan Yan and old lady Qin were eating food delivered by the restaurant in her house when the doorbell rang. Nan Yan put down her chopsticks and went to open the door. Seeing the elegant and graceful figure outside the door, she was subconsciously at a loss for a moment. "Brother." Coming back to her senses, she made way for him at the door and invited him in. "Why are you here?" Qin Lu's voice was low, clear, and pleasant. "I came to see the old lady and you by the way." "Oh," Nan Yan understood, "my grandma and I are about to eat." "Brother, have you eaten before? If not, let's eat together." Qin Lu looked at the girl's well-behaved appearance and reached out to touch her head. "Yes, let's eat together." Nan Yan. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 78. Is this head-touching killing really so easy? Thinking of her touching Lin Xian's head before, and then feeling Qin Lu touching her head now, the look in her eyes was a bit hard to describe. "Yan Yan, who is here?" Mrs. Qin's voice came from the restaurant. "Is it Alu?" Nan Yan came back to her senses and replied, "It's my brother who is here." The food delivered by the hotel was very generous, and it was enough for Duo Qinlu to eat alone. However, not long after, her doorbell rang again. Qin Lu looked towards the door. "Is your fourth brother here?" "Probably." There weren't many people on her side who knew her, just about 4 or 5. "I'll open the door." Nan Yan came to the door again. Opening the door, a bouquet of flowers was stretched out in front of her. Surprise! Shen Junking's gorgeous and lazy tone is very pleasant to listen to. Nan Yan stared at the huge bouquet in front of her for a second before looking at him. In his hand, he also held a beautifully wrapped gift box. "Sister, were you fooled by the surprise? Go on." Shen Junking smiled brightly and put the big bouquet directly into her arms, and placed the gift on the bouquet. Then he came in naturally and was locked in the door. Nan Yan turned around and put the flowers on the cabinet where Hungry came in. She was a little confused and said, "Third brother, it's so good. Why did you give me a gift? Isn't it worth celebrating that we got that piece of land?" Shen Junking went straight to it, hugging her shoulders in a very casual and romantic manner, but not offensive. "Come on, I'm treating you today, you can do whatever you want." Shen Junking was indeed very happy to successfully obtain the piece of land in the west of the city. Usually he would celebrate with his friends. But this time, he just wanted to come and find Nan Yan. "You said it's late, we are preparing to eat." Nan Yan said very calmly, "How about you eat here too?" What she said was just to be polite. After all, when she said we, she already made it clear that there were other guests here. According to what she thought, Shen Junking would definitely not stay to eat. To be honest, she didn't want Shen Junking and Qin Lu to meet here. How they get along in private has nothing to do with her, but every time she is present, the two of them feel tit for tat when they meet, which she really doesn't want to see. As a result, as soon as she finished asking, she heard Shen Junking say simply, "Okay." Nan Yan. Why do all these people not play according to the routine? It's really terrible. Hashtag. Qin Lu waited for a while, but when Nan Yan and her fourth brother didn't come in, he put down his chopsticks and came out. After they came out, they discovered that the person who came was not Anziran, but Shen Junking. There was also a dazzling bouquet of flowers and a gift box on the cabinet at the entrance. Shen Junking even hugged Nan Yan's shoulders very affectionately and smiled brightly. Qin Lu's eyes darkened when he saw this scene. The aura on his body was a bit colder. Third young master Shen, why are you here? Qin Lu's voice was cold and without warmth. Hey, Mr. Qin, you're here too. Shen Junking still smiled devilishly. Can't I come to see my sister? Nanyan holds his forehead. I'm coming. The tit-for-tat begins again. Afraid that the two of them would quarrel again, Nanyan quickly interrupted the two of them and said quietly, let's go eat first, the food will be cold in a while. Qin Lu glanced at Shen Junking casually, and then responded indifferently, eat first. People have come in and cannot be driven away. Mrs. Qin looked at Shen Junking who came in beside Nan Yan, and then looked at her eldest grandson. Don't quite understand what's going on. Didn't he say that this was Yanyan's brother? Why does it seem that her eldest grandson is very hostile to him? You guys sit down first, and I'll cook 2 more dishes. The meals delivered by the hotel were originally enough for 3 people. But 4 people are definitely not enough. Shen Junking said lazily, don't go to so much trouble. How about we go out to eat and I'll treat you? It's a shameful waste. Nan Yan had already taken off the apron hanging aside and put it on skillfully, just 2 home-cooked dishes, soon, you guys eat first. After saying that, she entered the kitchen. The 2-bedroom apartment is not big, and the kitchen is also quite small. There is a sliding door between the dining room and the kitchen, so you can clearly see what the people inside are doing. Qin Lu tilted his head and watched Nan Yan take 2 tomatoes, a handful of vegetables, and 3 eggs from the refrigerator, and then went to the vegetable sink to wash the tomatoes and vegetables. Beat eggs, chop vegetables, cook pot. Judging from her movements, she is crisp and neat. She must be someone who often cooks by herself. Qin Lu couldn't help but think of how she grew up in the countryside before she was recognized by the Yan family. The family favored sons over daughters and treated her very badly. At a young age, she had to do housework and take care of her brother, who was only 2 years younger than her. Of course Nan Yan didn't know what Qin Lu was thinking about. What he was thinking about was indeed the experience of the original owner. But she is different. She has been strong since she was a child, especially after her parents died. She learned to cook because she was too poor for a while and couldn't eat out every meal. She wanted to save money and trouble by buying and cooking her own food, so she learned how to cook. Small things like cooking are easy for her. She can cook them just by looking at the recipes. A few minutes later, Nan Yan served 2 dishes. A dish of stir-fried vegetables with oyster sauce and a dish of scrambled eggs with tomatoes. 2 quick dishes. After all, we are waiting to eat here, so there is no time to make those complicated dishes. Just make them simple. It should be enough, let's eat. Nan Yan took off her apron and sat in the empty seat next to Mrs. Qin. The dining table is rectangular, with 2 chairs on each long side in the front. Qin Lu and Shen Junking are next to each other. Nan Yan is not afraid that the 2 of them will fight. Even if they don't like each other, they won't fight here. Yan Yan, the dishes you cook are really delicious. Mrs. Qin took a bite of each dish and praised with a smile. The old lady has eaten all kinds of delicacies from mountains and seas. The chefs at home are all top chefs specially hired by 5-star hotels. They are very picky. I said this just to praise Nan Yan. But the dishes cooked by Nan Yan are really delicious. It tastes very homely, and people can't find any faults. Nan Yan smiled, if you like it, eat more. Then, in a meal, the 2 dishes she copied were eaten up without any left. Qin Lu and Shen Junqing seemed to be deliberately against each other, watching where the other's chopsticks fell, and then rushing to take away the dishes first. This action is indescribably childish. Nan Yan was too lazy to care, and helped Mrs. Jean to the living room first, intending to come back later to clean up. When she came back, she was shocked to find that the 2 young masters who condescended to their status had actually cleaned up the table. The bowls, chopsticks, and plates were all placed in the sink, and Shen Junqing was staring at them with a deep hatred, and had no idea where to start. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 79. Nan Yan saw this and said, Brother San, leave it there. I'll wash it. Let him wash it. Qin Lu wiped the table with disposable kitchen wet wipes, then threw the used wet wipes into the trash can, and said indifferently, he and I will work together. I will clean the table and sweep the floor, and he will wash the dishes. After a pause, he said leisurely, you can't eat for nothing. When Shen Junqing heard this, he finally made up his mind, rolled up his sleeves, took off his watch, and began to wash the dishes. He must not lose. How could he lose to Qin Lu, that dog man, in front of Sister Yan Yan? Beast. While Shen Junqing was complaining in his heart, he went to wash the greasy dishes with goosebumps all over his body. So disgusting. Shen Junqing simply closed his eyes, filled the sink with water, and then squeezed in half a bottle of detergent and started to wash. As a result, because too much detergent was poured, it was too slippery, and he didn't hold the bowl firmly, and it fell to the ground and broke. Shen Junqing. Damn. It's really not a job for a human to wash the dishes. Qin Lu, that bastard, chose to clean up the dishes, wipe the table and sweep the floor, and said he did a lot. This is clearly a trap for him, and the most difficult thing is given to him to do. Gritting his teeth, Shen Junqing picked up another bowl in disbelief. It was still too slippery, and it fell to the ground again. Shen Junqing, He has been very careful, okay. Why did it fall again? Nan Yan. She rolled up her sleeves and walked in, let me do it, third brother, if you don't want to eat for free, then help take out the garbage. She was afraid that if Shen Junqing continued to wash, her bowl would be broken. Shen Junqing wanted to agree. But when he looked up and saw Qin Lu's expression that seemed to be mocking, he became competitive. Shen Junqing looked at her pitifully with his charming peach blossom eyes, then I'll watch you wash one, and I'll continue after you learn it. Nan Yan looked at him silently, and seeing that he insisted, she could only tell him how to wash dishes. As expected, he was a young master who had never touched a dish before, and even needed to be taught how to wash dishes. Hashtag. After the kitchen was cleaned up, the 3 of them came out of the kitchen. The small room and the living room were not big, and it seemed very full with 4 people sitting on the sofa. They chatted until 10 o'clock in the evening. Nan Yan yawned a little sleepily, and Shen Junqing stood up and said goodbye. Qin Lu also arranged for Mrs. Jean to go back to bed. Nan Yan went to take a shower. After taking a shower, she changed into pajamas and was about to go back to the bedroom to sleep when she heard someone knocking on the door again. She rubbed her temples and went to open the door in slippers. Qin Lu was standing outside, holding a box of pure milk in his hand. Nan Yan was a little dazed. How did he know that she had finished her milk? Nan Yan pondered and made way for the door. Qin Lu came in and put the milk in the kitchen, then took out the pure milk box with only the box left, and prepared to take it down and throw it away later. He opened the box casually, took out a bottle of milk, opened the milk cap and handed it over. Little friend, drink the milk and go to bed early. Nan Yan took the milk he handed to her and asked softly, "Brother, are you going back to the hotel?" Qin Lu nodded, "Well, I'll come again tomorrow night." "Oh." Nan Yan nodded obediently, "Then brother, go slowly on the way." After sending Qin Lu out, Nan Yan realized it. Why did he come again tomorrow night? Is it to come to see Mrs. Qin, or to come to eat like today? I don't understand. Nan Yan rubbed her eyebrows and drank the milk in her hand. She lay on the bed again and planned to go to sleep. However, another phone call came in. Shen Junking. Nan Yan answered, "Third brother, is there something?" Shen Junking's low and magnetic voice came over, "Yan Yan, don't forget to look at the gift and see if you like it." Nan Yan held the phone, "Okay. Sister, it's getting late, go to bed early after looking at it." Nan Yan said expressionlessly, "If you didn't call me, I would have fallen asleep now." Shen Junking smiled and apologized, "Third brother's fault, don't disturb the lovely sister Yan Yan's rest, third brother hang up." Putting away the phone, Nan Yan sighed and went to get the gift box on the cabinet in the entrance. The indoor lighting is a soft warm orange. In the unpacked gift box, there lies a beautiful crystal crown, which is beautiful against the warm orange light. This is a valuable headdress. Nan Yan took the phone, took the hair accessory in her hand, took a photo and sent it to Shen Junking. And added a sentence, "Thank you, third brother, I like it very much." After that, she packed the gift, put it in the bedside table, and turned off the phone. Sleep. Hashtag. It was Wednesday, and the midterm exam was here. Nan Yan came to school in the morning, and the students in class 4 of senior 2 were all very excited. They didn't dare to say anything in front of her, so they all ran to their class group that didn't add Nan Yan to send messages. "Finally, I've waited for this day after the exam, someone can get out. Comrades, the dawn of victory is shining ahead, keep strong." She still wants to counterattack, from the bottom 30 or 40, to the top 100, what a dream, she doesn't even consider whether she is that material. Okay, although she wants to leave, she hasn't left yet. It won't be too late for us to celebrate after she leaves. The group of people finally settled down, took their stationery, and went to their respective examination rooms. The examination rooms of Zhide High School are ranked according to scores. Nan Yan was in the last examination room because her score was at the bottom. And more than half of the people in the examination room were students from class 4 of senior 2. After all, class 4 of senior 2 was a backdoor class, and the students were not very good at studying. When the exam officially started, all the students from class 4 of senior 2 were staring at Nan Yan secretly. Nan Yan lowered her head and answered the questions very quickly. When everyone was writing on the first page, she had already turned over and was writing on the third page. The speed of answering the questions shocked a group of people watching her take the exam. They couldn't help but wonder if she really knew how to do it or was just writing it randomly. Half an hour later, Nan Yan finished answering all the questions, put the test paper on the table, and fell asleep on the desk. She didn't get up until the bell rang to end the exam, and she handed in the paper directly. 2 days of exams, each exam, except for Chinese, which took her a little longer and took her an hour to finish, all subjects were finished in 40 minutes. The group of people who were watching her take the exam had no idea what was going on. After the last exam, Nan Yan handed in her paper and left the classroom directly, preparing to leave school. Lula Hua, who was waiting outside the school for Nwao to finish the exam, saw Nan Yan coming out of the school and his face changed slightly. Thinking of what Nwao had said to her before, she gritted her teeth and tried to keep herself calm. She waited for Nan Yan to say hello to her. As a result, Nan Yan walked past her as if she didn't see her, without even looking at her. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 80. Nan Yan, stop. Lulahua couldn't help but called her with a slightly sharp tone. Nan Yan stopped where she was, turned around, and looked at her casually. "Mrsin, is there something wrong?" Her eyebrows were cold and distant, and there was no emotion on her beautiful face. "If it's okay, don't waste my time." "Do you have to talk to me like this?" Lulahua's heart was in pain, and the look he gave her was full of anger. "I'm your mother. How can you be a child like this? She has no manners at all, her manners are rude, unruly, and it's like she came to deliberately go against her. After all, she is not raised by her side. Look at Yao Yao, that is a caring little cotton jacket. Unlike her, she is a hedgehog, who pricks whoever she catches." Nan Yan's expression was cold and her voice was clear. "If you called me, it was just to reiterate our relationship in front of me. Now that I have heard it, can we leave?" "Nan Yan, I will talk to you nicely, and you should stop being so sarcastic, okay?" Lulahua thought of what Anyeoking told her, and said with a temper, "It was indeed my fault for not taking good care of you in the past, which made you psychologically unbalanced. I was wrong about this. If you move back, I will treat you the same as Yao Yao, and treat you two equally, okay?" She said so, but the resistance in her eyes was very obvious. Nan Yan saw this and sneered, "No, you should treat Yao Yao well. I am fine outside and don't want to go back." Seeing the two of them disgusting her in front of her every day? Although it is easier for her to expose Nweao's mask if she lives in the N family, she is more distressed about herself now and doesn't want to make herself unhappy. Lulahua can hardly communicate normally with Nan Yan. After a few words, she was angry. Seeing Nan Yan's attitude of not cooperating at all, she wanted to turn around and leave, pretending that she didn't know her. But no. Lulahua's eyes turned slightly, and he thought of an idea. "Your grandfather has been unwell recently. We plan to go see him. You should go with us. The old man has liked you since you were taken back. You can't even have this little time. If there is someone in the Yin family who Nan Yan has a good impression of after being reborn in this body, that is Old Manan. In the original owner's memory, Old Manan really liked her." Not accepting the opposition of the Yin family, he insisted on announcing that she was the biological daughter of the Yin family, giving her the real warmth between relatives. "And Old Manan's health is indeed not very good. When are we going?" Nan Yan made up her mind to go see Old Manan. Only after they actually met could she know what was wrong with his body so that she could help him recuperate and treat it. Seeing this, Lulahua breathed a sigh of relief. "How about Saturday?" Nan Yan frowned. "Saturday is not possible, can it be tomorrow after school?" On Saturday, she promised Tao Qingming that she would go to the capital with him to see a patient. When Lulahua heard this, his face changed a little more, and he accused, "What are you busy with? What is more important than visiting your grandfather? It seems that the old man really feels sorry for a white-eyed wolf." Nan Yan said lightly, "It is not convenient to change the time for things that have been agreed with others in advance. If it is not possible tomorrow afternoon, then wait a few days. Nothing else, I'm leaving, goodbye, Madaman." After saying that, Nan Yan turned around and left directly. "You." Lulahua was really mad at her cold attitude. There were already quite a few students coming out of the school, and she couldn't yell in front of so many people, so she could only hold back the anger in her heart. "Mom, why did you come to pick me up in person?" Nweao came to her side and hugged her coquettishly. Lulahua was full of anger, and after seeing Nweao, all disappeared. She patted Nweao on the back a few times and said with a smile, "Yao Yao, come out. You have a live broadcast tomorrow. Mom wants to take you to buy a beautiful dress." In the last performance accident, Nweao used the excuse that her arm was injured to fool those fans. Fans comforted her in turn and spontaneously raised funds for her to buy a lot of gifts. As for others, they only mocked her a few times in the first 2 days. After all, Nwao's fame is not that big. Apart from her fans, not many passers-by will pay attention to her. The news on the internet is updated quickly. After a few days, the performance accident has almost faded out of people's sight. This time, Nwao took a few days off and came back to class. People in the school saw her and cared about her injury. No one mentioned the performance. "Well, Mom, you're the best." Nwao smiled and hugged Lulahua tighter. After a while, she whispered, "But, when I came here just now, I seemed to see you and Yanyan together. Why did she leave when I came here?" "Don't mention her to me." Lulahua's voice instantly became 8 degrees colder. "I'm so angry when I think of her now. Her coming back is to jinx me." "Yao Yao, let's go home first." Nwao agreed obediently, let go of Lulahua, and took her arm instead. The mother and daughter went back to the car waiting on the roadside together. Hashtag. Back home, Nanyan was not surprised to see Mrs. Jean in her house again. Seeing her come back, the old lady quickly suppressed the angry expression on her face, smiled and greeted her. "Yanyan, are you back?" Nanyan put her schoolbag on the cabinet at the door and put on her slippers before walking over and sitting next to her affectionately. "Grandma, who made you angry?" "Who else could it be?" Mrs. Jean's face darkened again, and this time she didn't hide her anger at all. "I just came out to stay for a few days, but a group of people came to bother me every day and asked me to go back. I thought Alu understood me, but it turned out that he didn't even discuss it with me and asked someone from home to pick me up. It will arrive in a few hours. You have been out playing for a long time. My family must be worried about you." Nanyan reassured, "You go home and have a look first. If everything is okay, you can come back after a while. But Grandma can't bear to leave you." Mrs. Jean grabbed Nanyan's hand and looked at her eagerly. "How about, Yanyan, will you go home with me?" Nanyan. Want to abduct her after a disagreement? This kind of thinking is unacceptable. "Grandma, I'm still in school." "Grandma knows." Mrs. Jean looked serious. "Yanyan, you see, the N family is not treating you well anyway, and you don't want to live with them, so why not follow me back to the imperial capital? I will help you transfer there and arrange for you to enter the best high school in the imperial capital. From now on, you will go directly to Imperial Capital University."